Good morning, good afternoon. This is ASC Advisory Group. My name is Thomas Menze and I'm with ASC European Operation. So welcome to ASC's Automation Service Market Research webinar. A couple of weeks ago, ASC conducted a market research of the global automation service market. And first of all, thank you for all of your valuable input. You helped us a lot with all your feedback and answering the questions. We will start with the explanation of the methodology. We are going to explain to you the methodology of this research. Then Florian will present some market information of the market today and the future market. End users maybe have their own view on automation services, and exactly this future will be explained in the session Future of Automation Services. Then we have a supplier evaluation, and as I said before, at the end we have the question and answer session where you can really ask additional questions and we are going to answer. Okay, I think we should start. We should not lose more time. And Florian, next slide, please. Again, thank you very much for your valuable input. We got more than 331 people gave us valuable feedback, and that was really a fantastic performance. Again, thank you to all of you. And Florian, next, please. As I said before, I explained to you a little bit the methodology we used. So in this survey, we've spoken to all company sizes. We have really small and startup companies up to 50 employees, and we had global players with more than 50,000 employees. And all these kind of companies are more or less part of this survey and, of course, the result. And we had a wide range of companies. So we have spoken to suppliers of automation equipment, we've spoken to machine builders, to EPCs, and of course the end users. And we have conducted this survey all over the world. So it is really global feedback. And again, overall, we had 321 experts really participated in this survey. And now please welcome Florian Guldner. He will guide you to the next slides. And he starts with the market trends of customer service today and tomorrow.
We're going to discuss the market trends today and tomorrow, which basically means we talk a little bit about the market size. We also talk about the developments of the automation service market. And after that, we look into, let's say, more the qualitative aspects of the future automation market, automation service market. And then I will hand over back to Thomas for the supplier evaluation. All right. So what's on the market today? We asked the suppliers basically, what are you offering currently to the end users of automation equipment? And we see that really, let's say, the traditional services, let's say training, spare parts, field services, repair services, etc., these are offered by most of the suppliers throughout the board. At the very end, you see that a few of these services are not so widespread in terms of the offering, looking at the maintenance, outsourcing, calibration, which is linked to a dedicated product, which is why it's not that frequent, and especially, let's say, the cloud-based data services, which are a very new service offer. So not every supplier has it already in the portfolio. You may say it's still in its infancies. And very last, we have the turnkey plans, which are also, these are linked to a lot of know-how and also to a lot of financial strength. So bottom line is, while there are some differentiation in terms of products offered, most of the suppliers' service offering is very similar. So there's not much differentiation in the terms of offering and portfolio offer. The real differentiation between the suppliers is here in the quality of the services. We're going to see that later on with a couple of other questions for the end users, where they see where the differences is in the services. And we also ask the users here, what services do you currently receive from OEM suppliers, EPCs, and integrators? And I basically grade out the first three ones. The first three ones are for us these project services. That was not the focus on our research here. Obviously, most of the, or nearly all users purchase a system integration because they are not their own EPCs in nearly 100% of the cases. And then we have basically a huge group. So again, most users purchase the traditional kinds of services. We also see here that these cloud-based data services are present, so some purchase it, % of the market, and also maintenance outsourcing. We also ask the user community how much of capital expenditures and operational expenditures, CapEx and OpEx, is spent on automation services. We took these responses of roughly 80 to 100 end users that participated. We fed that with the data that we had on the database. We did a little bit of number crunching, and in the end, we came to the conclusion that back in 2014, the total automation service market was around 250 billion. Now, this is really about the core automation services, so excluding, let's say, the total system integration. And most of these services, and this was also a question answered by users, most of these services are purchased or are done in-house. So there's an in-house service group that basically services the plant and does the maintenance, and they account for the majority. A second part of very important players, or second most important part, is attributed to third-party service companies. These third-party service companies are either very, very big ones that partly operate a chemical park, so to say, so they operate the complete infrastructure for a number of end users that are clustered together in one area. But there also can be very, very small service companies with 5 to 50 employees, often a spin-off of an end users, and then really located very, very close to the company, and then to dedicated services. So their USP is really the deep knowledge of the plant and of the processes of the client. Second largest group are the OEMs, so machine builders. These machine builders typically provide the services really closely related to the machine. This is really a very close market. So outside companies basically do not have the know-how, the deep mechatronical know-how of machinery, which means it's really the OEM, the company that built the machine, can do the services, and they typically won't let anyone else take this business away from them. We also did some secondary research to mirror our results here, and a lot of the OEMs right now do up to 20% with services on their machines. Third biggest group are the suppliers. Right now, still a very small group. Many of the suppliers have focused more on product and system business, less on the service business. This is about to change, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. The fourth group, the smallest group, are the EPCs. This means all the system integrators that typically they build the plant, they build the production line, and then move on to the next project. Often they are not very strong in this recurring business, such as maintenance. One question that we asked to all of the participants, so we asked that to users, suppliers, EPCs, and OEMs, was which regions do you consider most advanced when it comes to automation services? It was a closed question, so this was the set of regions, and this was the set of answers to choose from. Advanced basically means that there's a well thought of outsourcing strategy in place, and a lot of the services, especially maintenance, are done not in-house. Traditional basically means most of the services are done in-house by the own employees. And it's not really surprising that North America and Europe came out on top, nearly the same level. I wouldn't put too much emphasis here on this differentiation. But from a technological side, when you see where the installed base has the younger age and the technological advantage to basically do all remote monitoring, remote services, then actually we would have considered to be Middle East and emerging Asia to be much further ahead or much closer to North America as well as Europe. We did a lot of interviews in parallel to this online survey, and really the key takeaway was that the service or the service culture is really a cultural and regional phenomenon. This means you do have to have this openness, this trust, and certain way of doing business, and this leverages and creates the service culture and the related outsourcing that is required for this very, let's say. Another question that we asked was which growth do you expect? With regards to our specific scope, we ask those questions to OEMs and suppliers. On the left side, you see the answers of the supplier side. So you basically see that many expect really strong growth, and overall the supplier expects an average CAGR of 8.5% over the next 5 to 10 years. This is very strong growth, especially if you look at the automation markets. PLCs, DCS, so traditional markets currently have a CAGR for the next 5 years of around 3%, some less, some slightly more. So this is a really big growth opportunity. The OEMs expect less growth, so they are slightly more conservative. And I mentioned earlier that there are quite a lot of OEMs that already have 20+X% of their business in services. So on the supplier side, this is really less. They have focused less on the services, more on the portfolio and the product development, and less on delivering those services. So there's more room for growth here. We also saw that earlier that the suppliers account for a rather small percent of the market, so they have the room to grow. And as outsourcing trends continue, they will obviously benefit from that. Nevertheless, we have the outsourcing trends. It's a hot topic in the automation world, but 8.5% CAGR or 6.5% CAGR is a very strong statement, and we were wondering actually why is it that way. And I want to switch now to a user question. So we asked the users what determines your demand in automation-related services in order to answer that question. And if you look at the very first 3 topics here, installed base, new products and related changeover, fixed cycles, these important drivers of automation service expenditures are all nearly independent from the business cycles. So the I-base, which is aging and increasing in age right now, so there will be more business actually triggered by an aging I-base. This is really independent from the business cycle. Most plants and also production lines have a lifetime from 5 to well over 25 to even 40 years. So this is really free of any short and cyclical influence. Products and related changeovers, even in the crisis of 2009, car manufacturers have not really change their strategy and timing when new products are released. So this is also something that's planned well in advance, and if we have a crisis for 1 year or maybe 1.5 years, hopefully not 2 years, then this is often not impacted. Same is true for the fixed cycles. Fixed cycles are partly due to legal issues and partly you cannot postpone them anymore. So this service business is really recurring business and therefore is very attractive. So it's a very stable market. It's a market with the aging iBase that really is growing a lot, and we will come back later and see that also the outsourcing contributes a lot to the ongoing growth in that market. We've seen the market for automation-related services is huge. The market for automation-related services is $250 billion and increasing, and it has a very strong growth rate. So what was also a very important aspect of our research was how will a service look like? We talk a lot about wearables, mobile computing, ubiquitous computing, and networking and new technologies. So the question is really how will that relate to the services and how will that change? What is your future plan regarding automation services? And the majority plans to do more outsourcing in terms of services, and 1/3 plans to increase the quality and the quantity of outsourcing. This is very important. So the quality, this means really it's getting more depth, it's getting more intense, and the collaboration with the OEM or the supplier gets more intense and more deeper. It also means a growing market, obviously. We have increase of the quantity, which just means, yes, we do maintenance outsourcing and we just do more of the same. And a small part actually wants to increase only the quality. The largest group actually wants to keep the same level, and a small part wants to reduce the level of outsourced services. Going a little bit deeper in the case-to-case answers by these a few companies that want to decrease it, they basically were unhappy with the quality of the services. The quality in this case means they were too slow, the reaction time was too long. It has meant that the suppliers or OEMs did not have enough know-how of the plants, and so the end users were really, really disappointed by the delivered services and now really want to get rid of their contract partners. This also means outsourcing will remain really a long-run trend, and again, this supports the strong growth. We did ask also the users the question, well, what kind of service do you plan to increase the quantity, as on the right side, the quality of outsourced services. So the quantity is really the service contracts. These are dominant. So these, here's my automation equipment, here's my plant, you take care of that, I take care of basically keeping production or keeping product quality, keeping the throughput. This is really getting more and more traction, and also we have this here for the project implementation, etc., etc. We see very low here on the cloud-based services, so this appears not to be really a growth market in this regards, but you have to see that they plan to increase the quantity, which means it's already something there. And also on the quality, it's simply a very, very new area, and we observe that a lot of the end users are very, very conservative when it comes to those cloud-based data services. In the interviews that we did in addition, we got the feedback that this mentality is slowly changing. The people are getting more open, see the benefits, and a little bit of the problem here for the cloud-based services is that it's a catch-22 situation, which means the business benefits of these cloud-based services are not crystal clear. There's no clear calculation behind it. There are some case studies, but if it applies to an individual plant, remains to be proven. We also see that if we look at these two charts, that the services around automation products are likely to stay constant. So what I mean with this here, on the quality side, you see that field service, training, spare parts, these are really, let's say, already so-called commodity services. There is not much differentiation here, and users tend to be quite happy with the response time here of suppliers, OEMs, etc. Last point, if you look on the right side of the quality, is that the quality of services will mainly increase in system integration and implementation. These were really the ones that were named the most in this very open question. Now, also, we asked the suppliers what kind of services you want to add to your current offering. We saw the offering before that most of them are rather similar. Now, when you look at this, the most cited plan for the future was really the cloud-based data services. So many suppliers do work on offering this cloud-based services. Again, when you look at the offering that's already out there, to be honest, none is really complete. Everyone is developing this kind of services, and we see it constantly decreasing in development, increasing in development, sorry. Many also want to get more into service contracts, especially as we are facing again some rougher economic times. This promises a very stable revenues. We also have seen out of other data that service contracts and services, they are a challenge to be profitable, but again, it's a stable revenue stream and it's very attractive out of that reason. Again, on the low side here, you see those services that are typically already well in place, so not many plan to offer that. When you basically read between the lines here and look here at supporting consulting, service contract, system integration, retrofit and modernization, two problems or two challenges will occur over the next years, and this is that the suppliers are moving more and more into the direction where system integrators and OEMs are already very, very active. So this can create conflicts and competition with their own customers. So from an analyst point of view, it will be very, very interesting to see how this will develop over the next years. On the retrofit and modernization side, we see also with interviews that we have done that this is the strategy to move into a competitor's iBase. So offer retrofit for a DCS system or for individual machinery to get a larger footprint in the market. So this is also a very strong link between the service business and between the product business. We did ask the OEMs, we did ask the users, sorry, what aftermarket services they expect from their machine builders. So that was a very important question for us. Really say, okay, that was an open question, so these are really the user responses. And what you really see that the main criteria is speed. Speed and continuous support and presence on the user side. This is what the people expect from their OEMs as part of services. We were surprised that when you look into maintenance and also startup and integration, this is not that often requested from the users. So our interpretation is that the users really expect the OEMs to take their place around the machineries offered. And this also basically gives another question, raises another question. If you have multiple OEMs taking care of their individual machinery, if you have suppliers taking care of the overall line integration and maintenance of basically the backbone, how to deal with a multi-service vendor plant, so to say, so how to manage those service contracts. We at ARC will really continue research in this area and will also continue it, especially around that area, because this is an area where we see a lot of challenges, but also huge potential for the users to save basically a lot of costs. We had one question we asked suppliers, EPCs as well as OEMs, and these were around disruptive technology changes and what will happen in future. If we look at this chart here, it says the orange ones are the EPCs, the blue ones are the suppliers, the gray ones are the OEMs. Everything was normalized in the end, so it's not biased towards one of the respondents groups. What we see really obviously, the big trends, IoT and Industry 4.0, these are the main topics. So together with everything as a service and cloud-based services. So we really say that connectivity will really be the key to providing services, and also we see new business models evolving there. The new business models, I mean, we see sort of multi-nucleus approach here and there, every once in a while pops something up. So far we don't see one business model that really has a lot of market penetration, so it's very, very case by case. But we'll all keep you updated on what happens there, and many OEMs are searching and suppliers are searching here in the area to develop something new. According to the providers of services, the future is really in the cloud. That means, again, the data provided services. This brings up another field of tension. So you have the ground workers with a lot of experience, and then the cloud with a lot of data analytics. So we had the discussion a few months ago on the ARC forum in Amsterdam last year, was that we had tribal knowledge from the plant floor against the data geeks that do all this highly sophisticated algorithms. Overall, and this is one key takeaway of this slide, we're going to provide that to you later on, though there's no need to write everything down. These services that are now provided, they are used to solve challenges. These challenges are basically faster moving markets. This means changeover times needs to be quicker. You need to react faster, remote calibration and the like. We have the brain drain and the workforce demographics. Even though you have basically done, or maybe you have done the maintenance in-house, your maintenance team is just simply getting too old to do the job, and you want to do it outsourced by specialized companies who is maybe faster and more efficient, and therefore just uses less workforce to do the same job. We see a changing energy landscape. That was a very important topic here also, which means the renewables coming into play. I know right now everyone talks about oil, but in future, when the conventional energy as well as nuclear power plants are getting lowered their share in total energy production and renewables increase, this energy landscape creates a lot of fraction, and also, and this is closely related to the very top issues here, the disruptive impact is the security. Everyone wants to be connected, everyone wants to be in the cloud, so to say, but the security issues are really strong, and unless they are not these are not solved, no one will move in the cloud. So this can have really disruptive impact. And I just recently heard the joke, we are developing from let's say operational company to a big cybersecurity company with a little bit of operations. And with this, Thomas, I hand over to you again for the supplier evaluation.
Exactly. That was interesting, Florian. Thank you. So we've learned from you, future of services will be in the cloud. That is an interesting topic, and that raises the question, who is best prepared to conduct automation service today and or in future to meet this expectation service will be in the cloud. And I need the next slide, please, to discuss this. Okay, what we have done here is really we have tried to answer this question: who is best prepared to conduct future automation services? And the answer was, let's say, more or less crystal clear. The automation suppliers who really spread a wide, or to work with a wide industry coverage. That means they have a lot of application know-how. These are highly ranked as preferred service suppliers of the future. And some examples of these high-ranked suppliers are Siemens, Rockwell, ABB, and others, because these kind of automation suppliers are really well trained to serve all the different applications in process and factory automation. They are in touch with energy generation, with chemical applications, with pharmaceutical, and so on. So these kind of automation suppliers could be really the service suppliers of the future. On the other side, the in-house service department, and this is normally conducted by the end users itself, are quite important, because that is the traditional way of provide service. Florian explained before. In some cases, this will not change because of brain drain, and there's maybe critical know-how involved if this service will be outsourced. So it will be interesting for a research company to really analyze the situation in future, how the in-house service will develop. And last but not least, due to demographic change and all these other things, third-party service suppliers have definitely a reasonable share in the service market, and this has regional deviations. So Florian explained before, these third-party suppliers are quite strong in the US, they are medium strong in Europe, and not really used on, or Asia is not really familiar so far with these third-party suppliers, but this may change in future. So that is more or less the end of the research, the end of the results of our ASC survey. Thank you for your participation and time. It was a pleasure discussing with you the topic on automation services, and hope to see you soon in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.